content. Images are considered content, and images are associated on the web with text, which is something we do in on-page optimization. And I'll mention that a little bit more, but not a whole lot, because this course is not an on-page optimization course. And then video, which is right now probably extremely important overall, although video seems to be its own kind of niche environment and often dwells on its own website, namely YouTube. And then, of course, audio. Podcasts are still big, other audio clips. Now, content is vital to the web. And I say think of your website as a store. Now think of your content for your website as being the merchandise that's in your store. Now, if your store's in a mall, let's say, and you don't have hardly any merchandise, well, in other words, if your store looks like this, a bunch of empty shelves, you might get people into your store. Maybe you've got a terrific window decoration out front and you've got a great sign and a terrific logo. But if people come into your store and they see a bunch of empty shelves, they're only going to visit that store once. The analogy is very well suited to websites because some websites are like the empty store. And Google has a term for this. They call this thin content. Now, having a whole bunch of pages with thin content was actually at one time a very valid trick of the trade. It was one of those tricks that stopped working in 2011, and we'll talk about why. And the trick here is, let's say you're trying to target a whole bunch of keywords. Let's say you're targeting men's shoes, men's dress shoes, women's dress shoes, men's athletic shoes, women's athletic shoes. So in the old days, what you would do is sometimes create an automated program that would create essentially empty pages where you've got women's shoes in the title of the page. And then you'll have a piece of boilerplate like, we sell women's shoes, maybe click through to then a central landing page, but hardly anything on the page. And so they would do this often. I remember going to a presentation by a guy who said he had developed a program that would be able to, at a click of a button, it would create 1,000 web pages for all the keywords that you wanted to target. It was a real issue, and it was a real annoying thing to encounter. So you as a searcher, you'd search and you'd think you have a result that was, matched what you wanted. And then you'd go to the page and there'd be hardly anything on it. Google would call that a bad user experience. And indeed, it was a bad user experience. And so Google now seeks to exclude such pages from their search index. And they warn in their guidelines against what they call thin content. Now, those are, to pursue our analogy, those thin concept websites are like the empty shelves in the store. They're basically a promise of something, but they're, it's basically an empty promise. So here's the takeaway, just kind of at a basic level, maybe your first takeaway, and that is, if you plan that you're going to have a whole lot of pages in your website, don't do the following technique. That is, create the shell of all these pages and then think, I'm going to come back and fill in the content later. Because if you do, and if you allow Google to index a lot of empty pages like that, Google will start developing a bad opinion of your website. And they will often apply, and particularly they've even gone on record with something called their helpful content update, which we'll talk about a bit as well. They've gone on record as saying that those types of low quality pages can bring the entire website down. So that's a by the way to store away for if you're developing new pages or plan to.